Okay,
We're missing Dougie.
go finish his cigarette.
No, he's in the bathroom.
Well, then he'll finish doing that. Come in.
Did you wash your hands?
You didn't shake it more than twice, did you?
Okay, that's enough. Because it can go on.
This is a Cherokee body unit.
Yeah.
Also traditional.
That's the next book.
Okay, so we're looking today to find the place where the fire should be placed. So it occurred to me that I have never sat around and gave a lesson on just what is the fire. Okay, I'm going to start at the beginning. This is a little treatise written by my brother, Professor Robert K. Thomas. Around 1810, white missionaries of several different Christian denominations approached the Cherokee chiefs and asked permission to preach the gospel among the Cherokees. The chiefs agreed to allow the missionaries to preach 2 days out of each week if they would set up schools and teach Cherokee students during the other 5 days of the week. This arrangement went on for 10 or 15 years. Some of the Cherokees became Methodists during that time. But by and large, the Cherokees did not seem very interested in Christianity, especially the traditional full-blood Cherokee majority. Then in the early 1820s, Sequoyah, with God's help, developed the Cherokee alphabet or syllabary. If he were still alive today, he'd change that sentence, but the Cherokee government began to publish a newspaper of the Cherokee laws in the Cherokee language. The missionaries once again came to the Cherokee Council and asked the chiefs to provide funds to translate the Bible into the Cherokee language. In those days, there were some highly educated young Cherokee men. The chiefs had these young men read the entire Bible to them in English and then had them interpreted into Cherokee. This process took up the better part of a week. After these young men finished with their interpretation, the chief said that they were impressed with what they had heard. They said the Bible was a wonderful book filled with wisdom, especially the teachings of Jesus, which they felt would be a benefit to all the Cherokees. And one chief commented that he was amazed that whites had such a beautiful message in their possession for such a long time and still behaved so badly. The council directed these young, educated Cherokees to translate the New Testament into the Cherokee language. The young translators knew Greek and Latin as well as English, so they translated directly from the original Greek into Cherokee. After the New Testament in Cherokee was published, many Cherokees read it and studied it carefully. And shortly there were many Christians among the Cherokees, especially Baptists. However, the chiefs did not authorize the Old Testament to be translated. They said that although the Old Testament was a fine book, the Cherokees already possessed that knowledge in the form of the sacred Cherokee law, the fire and the sacred rules, the ceremonies, the sacred history, the medicine, and so on. Of course, the fire symbolizes and stands for all of the law. The chiefs understood well that the Cherokees were the chosen people here on this great island, and that this original law given by God fitted the Cherokees as a people into his creation here in North America. Jesus understood the importance of the original law given to his own people, the Jews. He was born into a traditional Jewish family and was a traditional Jew himself. He went through the traditional Jewish ceremony of manhood, the bar mitzvah, at the temple. Jesus drove the moneylenders from the temple later in life, last acts of his life was to conduct the Jewish Passover ceremony. He said many times that he came to fulfill the Jewish law, not to destroy it. What would Jesus think if he came tomorrow and found that the Cherokees who lived still in the Cherokee Holy Land were neglecting the law given them by God as the Jews were given the law? Unfortunately, when Jesus' message was taken to the Gentiles, it almost moved into a vacuum. There was no law there on which to build. The Gentiles' old law was almost forgotten, or else it had degenerated into witchcraft. In Cherokee, witchcraft doesn't mean what it does in English. In Cherokee, witchcraft is a deliberate act done to cause or inflict pain on another human being or thing, akin. Therefore, Jesus' message was grafted onto a weak root among the Gentiles. When whites came to North America, they did not try to understand how God might want them to live here in North America. They tried to transplant that beautiful tree of Christianity here in North America, but with no root at all. Now some would have Cherokees cut their roots and disobey God's original instructions in order to be Christians. Whites are going down the tube because of their rootlessness. A person need only to look at the social breakdown in America: drinking, child abuse, violence, crime, drug use, divorce, etc., to realize that we now live in Babylon. Cherokee Indians do not have to embrace this misunderstanding of Jesus' message and destroy themselves as well. It is clear that the Cherokee's spiritual power is weak these days, both as a people and as individuals. But we would become strong spiritually again if we attended to our original law, our roots once again. The fire is our birthright and our obligation. Christianity is a person's choice. Our fire would help us, and the tree of Christianity could flower in our land, growing from a strong root. Now, it's interesting, there are numerous stories about the origin of the fire. I'm sure the one most everyone is familiar with is Mooney's little story that he copied down. About how the spider brought fire to the people. Let me read you the original story, the original Cherokee story about where the fire came from. Soon after the beginning of creation, the Great Spirit, giver and preserver of all life, left his throne in heaven and came down to earth. The creators looked over tribe after tribe after tribe and selected 4 Indian men and 4 Indian women, strong and healthy, without blemish, brave and moral, good and true, of strong and sincere religious convictions and firm belief in the Great Spirit. Translated into the English language, the men and women were named red, blue, black, and yellow. Blue to the north, red to the east, yellow to the south, and black to the west. Each man and each woman was then given a straight wooden stick, and he or she was directed to place one end of the stick into an inflammable material. Once all the sticks were aflame, they were to start one fire to become and for all times the sacred fire. From the most ancient of times, this fire has been with us. This is the fire which Wosi followed at night. It is the eye of Wosi, the divining crystal, the most active and efficient agent appointed by the sun and moon to take care of mankind. Boy, I could go on and on with a whole bunch of stuff here. But that kind of covers what I wanted to do. Well, the original story. Four men, four women. Now consider the story. The creators looked over all the tribes and chose 4 men and 4 women. Like I've been telling you guys for years now that all of these stories are Peishon, that if you understand the culture, the story opens up a little wider. So what this is clearly telling us is that this fire that we have now is a combination of 4 fires. And note the story does not say 4 Cherokee men and 4 Cherokee women. It said they looked over all the tribes and picked 4 men, 4 women. So, we might even could expand that. It may have been 8 fires. 8 traditions. The fire being the sum total of, how was it he put that? The sum total of all the laws in the culture. So now, we're looking at the real possibility that the sacred fire comes from 8 traditions. And isn't it interesting that we now have 7 clans, which are acknowledged as they were 7 tribes. And one that's sleeping. All these fires together to make the fire that we have today. Now, the English documented that when the Cherokees were discovered in South Carolina, of all places, the English explorers were stunned to discover a race of Indians, some of very fair complexion, some of blonde hair, some with red hair, curly and wavy and straight. Indeed, they are, as their neighbors say, Cherokee, those that are different. And there is this theory that the word Cherokee comes from this word, which this is pronounced like a J. I'll never forget why they understand why they put TS, but that's people that do languages. Jalagi. And you'll hear Cherokees using that all the time nowadays. Are you Jalagi? It's not a Cherokee word. Jalagi is a Muskogee or Coweta word. The Creeks were Muskogeans. The Choctaws, the Chickasaws, the Seminoles, and the Creeks were all Muskogean tribes. The Creeks were the Cowetas. But it means those that are different. And I just read you what that says, and for the longest time I had put this away and couldn't find it, so I will now give you the reference on where to find it. You can find that in the documents called Cherokees at the Oxford Press in Oxford, England, dated 1812. A collection of documents reporting on the Cherokee Nation of Indians. Yay. I knew I'd written it down somewhere. And we can all thank Miss Shan for this, because I threw all my papers away after school. She dug them out. I told her I'm never going to need that. Luce is going to hate me because I'm going to beg her to put all this into some form of doing this, but anyhow.
She've got all the time now.
There came a time when we lost the fire in a war called the Revolutionary War against the Americans. And the town that was the capital at the time, Echota, got invaded, burned to the ground, and the fire, they say, sunk into the ground and is there to this day. So we had to come up with a new way of making the fire, because we had lost the original one that we had gotten here. And there are lots of documents that you can find, historical documents and the sort, that clearly indicate that all of the Indian tribes in North America came to the Cherokee town of Ketua to get their fire.
Literally get a coal and carry it back to. Okay.
Yeah. And like I say, it is documented. What they don't teach in school, mind you, but there are documents, and all the tribes have this story. They came to the Cherokee town of Ketua to get their fire. So our name, Ani-Ji-Lagi, the keepers of the fire, has validity from the customs, traditions, and ceremonies of all the other tribes. Okay, so there had